Lavinya, besides your brief bio, 3 bullets here, anything else you want our educators and people on the webinar to know about you? Obviously, we're going to go into your curriculum in a little bit, but is there anything else? Yeah.
I think just adding to that list, I've written and I'm a writer on on different topics. I've written for a range of outlets on issues of education and race in the UK, and so that's really what was the backdrop behind the Black curriculum. It was the articles that I was writing and getting very passionate about that. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I'll have to send those through to us. I'd be super interested to read some of them as well. Phoebe is our behind the scenes wizard here. I like to call her the Wizard of Oz behind the green screen. We can go on to the next one. Yeah, perfect. So we like to just start and ground ourselves in the why we're here. And we wanted to just really make sure that our classrooms and the classrooms that we support in the UK are celebrating all students. I've been super impressed by this in my quick visits to the UK and the classrooms. I've only been in 2 schools pre-lockdown, but I thought it was really interesting to see the diversity in students. That has a lot to do with the way schools are structured here compared to what I was used to in New York State. And then we also believe in our educators' job is to educate and empower. So I think this last point of empowering is super important, because a lot of times when we talking about race or diversity, we talk about just shining a light on perspectives that are different and varied, and so that students can feel proud and pride in those, build their confidence, build their voice. I don't like to say find their voice because they already have one, but build it up. And that is a great goal that we have in the school systems.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Anne. Sorry, back y'all. But yeah, so we've seen a huge focus on just race and diversity, and that we do have to have our role to empower as well as educate. And a lot of this will focus on resources, on just how to educate ourselves as well, and to focus on celebrating all diversities in the classroom. So we have a ton of resources to focus on that. And let's dive a little bit more into the Black curriculum, then we'll get into some questions. Next slide. Awesome. So Lavinya, thanks again for being here with us. This is a huge, awesome privilege for us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Black curriculum?
Sure. So the Black curriculum is a social enterprise that I founded last year whilst I was doing my dissertation as part of my undergraduate degree. And what I was studying at the time was African studies. So I think a lot of my education was around Black history. And for me, it was really awakening because I didn't have that information before. Or it wasn't taught in a way that was empowering. And I think this is why it's really key that in how we actually teach history, how we teach different subjects, it is empowering for students as well, from the way that we deliver our classes to the actual content that you're bringing. So essentially, we aim to bring it to schools. So what is it? It's a program. It's a range of programs that basically are based on our 12-topic syllabus, which have different topics of Black history, from music to history to art. And yeah, we deliver that in schools, and we also support teachers to deliver Black history 365 days a year. So that it's not just October or in specific events of the year that we begin to talk about diversity in Black history. So the aim of it is really to embed Black histories throughout the curriculum, so that all teachers and all students can access it. And it's not just something that is left to university or just October.
I love that. So it's embedded in their existing curriculum. It's not something separate. Is it something they can just do alongside the regular curriculum?
Yeah, definitely history.
Awesome.
So it should be part of everything, right?
Awesome. And how did you create, just in terms of the creation of it? So I know a lot of work has been put into it for so head teachers, historians, and all that. Can you tell us how you kind of established it?
Yeah, so initially when we came up with the idea, when I came up with the idea, I went to a couple of people and expressed that I wanted to kind of create this 12-topic syllabus, and we made a public call. So we had a range of people apply, from teachers, to students, to graphic designers, researchers as well, and people who are just interested in seeing that education is accessible for everyone. So yeah, essentially we basically just collaborated with freelancers and ensured that throughout the whole process we were like doing quality assurance to make sure that the different subjects were not only relevant to what young people want to know, but it is kind of getting the marks of success as well in there as well. So it's not just an additional curriculum, it's something that can be embedded within specifically Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 curriculums. And so yeah, like we done that over a period of like 4 months, and yeah, within that it's a range of resources from PowerPoints to lesson handouts to whole lesson plans as well, so that we can actually support teachers yeah, when they want it.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, Ange, go ahead.
That was going to be my question too, was about, I have always been really passionate about curriculum development and like hearing the process behind and who you engage. And that's just fantastic that you had so many different people going, doing the deep diving, right? Because it's really easy to get lost as a teacher into all that's out there. My first few years, I used to spend every Sunday just planning all day, and I loved it, but it's not sustainable. So I think one of the great things about your work is that teachers can have some resources. Can you talk a little bit about that, like what teachers can use and implement and where they could find it?
Yeah, sure. So usually what we found is that teachers don't actually feel that there's a lot of research out there. There is, but it's just very hard to sometimes access it. And because they're found in very, I guess, obscure places. There's a lot of oral histories, but they're not necessarily condensed in like a book. So with the syllabus, we wanted something that we could present to schools in a way that it's codified in a manner that can be embedded within different subjects. So what we've done, we've created this thematic curriculum that is 12 topics, but how we offer it to schools, we offer it by module, so that it's easier for teachers who are, for example, teachers of history or teachers of geography, to say, look, if this is a syllabus on land and the environment, this would work really well in my geography lesson. So they would obtain that module, that package rather, to include PowerPoints and all the other kind of items that are in there. And we've kind of extended those resources to include videos that are digestible for young people as well, so that, you know, when teachers are actually teaching, they can also demonstrate through practical examples what kinds of Black history they're trying to teach. So it's just really just bringing all those informations together, different materials that are online but just are, you know, quite esoteric at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. And you've had quite a bit of success in the classroom already. Do you want to tell us just how does it feel for your classrooms that you partner with, like stories, successes?
The classroom, I think it's just a case of just endless possibilities, and I think that's what we see when we go in. There's a lot of hope that we have from students who are met with information that they haven't seen before, or in many cases they have seen but only in 1 month. And so I think with that, the premise means that they're instantly very excited and very engaged, and that brings out a different side to them. So I think just the success, if you like, is within acknowledging the fact that this is information that is new and it's working with them on that journey to really just indulge in that information. So I think within that, we've seen say, like, this is amazing in class. They literally in all of our evaluations at the end, they say that this is something that they want to continue learning. And we've had feedback from young boys who say they've gone to start their own Black British book club, and also from teachers as well, which is really important, that they can see a difference in their young people. They're asking more questions, they're a lot more inquisitive, and they have all these ideas. And I think it's about providing that space where those ideas can be acknowledged and heard and also developed. So yeah, it is a case of endless possibilities. We've worked with over I think over 10 schools since our pilot in September, and roughly over 1,000 pupils. And yeah, within that, it's just a case of young people just feeling like they are able to really come to a place of full self-expression, and they're not limited as to, you know, what they think. It has a place in the classroom. So I think that is the success, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Lavinya. Let's get into some of these resources. So let's move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, perfect. So we'll elaborate more on what Lavinya said. A lot of this will come down to preparation, a lot of fun interactive resources that the kids will love. But Ange will take us away with the ELA units from the States.
Yeah, so Lavinya, I loved what you were saying, like that it increased this idea of children. So on my screen currently, here we go. I have the block curriculum pulled up, and I pulled up here for you these resources, these free learning resources. Did you want to talk anything about these for people to download?
Yeah, so this section of our website is an overview of what we actually offer in the syllabus. So as I said before, 12 topics, and within that we've got 4 main modules, and within those modules you have 3 mini kind of topics that can cross different classes. So it's very thematic. We have a range of animations. So Angie, could you type in the blackcurriculum.com/download?
Yep. And just
So
bear
within
with
that,
me here before and download. Yeah. Oh, my splash away.
yeah.
You know, there is a learning curve from a US to a UK keyboard. I don't know if it's this, but is it here?
This is the one. Thank you so much. So this is our resource page that is going to constantly be updated over the next couple of months. But we've got podcasts. So those podcasts are based on our syllabus. And you can find those right at the top, podcasts on Black British history. And so, yeah, you can use that as a resource to guide students through pre-colonial Britain. So kind of given a context and a little bit of information as to what it included. Also, I know the page is really heavy with content, so it does take but we've got videos that should load, animations essentially on iconic women in history, Black women in British history. So those people are Fanny Eaton for week 3, Mary Seacole, Olive Morris, and Lillian Bader. So you can, these are YouTube, and as part of that we have like extracurricular activities that are accessible for Key Stage 2 and for also Key Stage 3 students, so that they can continue their learning and research more about these fantastic women who have contributed so much to our history here in Britain. So yeah, it should load, but yeah, if you want to find more, you can go into our YouTube. Yeah, so our YouTube channel is just the Black Curriculum, and you'll find all of those videos there as well.
Yeah, and if you're following on at home, you can check out the handout that's popped up on your webinar site, and the first link is to your website that brings people to this main page here, and then they can go into / more easier.
Perfect.
Some of the other ones that we have as well that we just wanted to highlight is on that handout that we were talking about. In addition to the Black Curriculum website, Dianne and myself have put together a Google Drive that's also linked in there for you. And in that Google Drive, you will find tons of different resources that we've pulled together. And in mine in particular, it's not loading correctly on my screen at this point. Here we go. So for myself in particular, I taught 8th grade ELA. So I did reading, writing, vocab, grammar, and there's just great room in that to dive into. I taught in a school that was 99% of the students identified as Afro. And so like you said, it had to be, and it should be, 365 years a year. In the States, it's Black History Month this February, but it should just be. And so in that drive, when you open it up, some of the resources you see here, these are Black History Month projects. And you'll notice that there's a theme with poetry. I was obsessed with poetry. My kids had to read it like. But staying on topic, this is from Gwendolyn Brooks. She's an amazing African American poet, and this is just also goes to the empowerment theme that you're talking about, because it's just got such a positive message. And when you are looking at this as a teacher, on the far side, I was pretty meticulous in my notes. The first note will always be the timing of the lesson, And you'll see, as I say, pretty meticulous, like it's 13 minutes for the do now, right? And really timed down. So this is other ways that teachers can use. The standards are there. They are American standards. And if anyone ever needs help, I'm bringing that over to the UK standards. I'm more than happy to. And then I have tons of different peer research projects that can do. This question came up last time about like getting science resources. And what I think is really great about this resource in particular is that you actually could go to any class, because you could just change these topics here to ask people to write a narrative from a scientist that is a person of color, right? Or do a background and do a biography on a great speechwriter in your geography class. The other ones that I wanted to highlight were the poetry units, again, a theme with myself. And in addition to the poems, I also paired them with nonfiction articles. So Lavinya, I think this goes back to what you were talking before about there's so much there. These nonfiction articles that are tagged in this document, as well as the next one, are ones that I found were really great, but also you could meet kids at their reading levels, right? They weren't written for college. And so they talk about microaggressions in particular around race, which is super important to talk about in classrooms, just to also create a safe space. So we would read this to talk a little bit about how to be more thoughtful about our language with one another, as well as then just like open our eyes up to the world, like asking questions, becoming an inquisitive mind. And I used to pair it with poems just to get a sense also. This one, I believe, is the Langston Hughes poem, English B. The other ones that are also on here is 1-800-White Privilege, which is fantastic and has on YouTube a great poetry rendition of it. It's erupted in cheers every time I watched it. And this goes on a little bit more here to talk about, again, those different microaggressions, those nonfiction units that then can have kids start to talk about implicit bias as well as explicit bias. So a lot more just exploring what are some of the things that currently in the world, using our voices as writers and readers to.
Amazing.
Those are the ones that I'm gonna highlight. And then Di, you've done a ton of work as well when you log into these different Google Drives here that you can see. Do you want to talk a little bit about the diversity resources here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so to kind of couple back what I just mentioned about, it's so important to have works of art by Black artists and people of color for our students to kind of see and reflect and really see that, hey, this person looks like me, this person wrote this, and I can do it too. So really going into this exploring area will help the educator as well as the student. So this was a fun one that we did when we were in AmeriCorps. Now keep in mind, AmeriCorps, we didn't know each other. We came from all over the country in one little house, and then we had to work together to help other communities. So it's a lot of work with communities that we're not familiar with necessarily, or we don't have the same identities with. So this work is really great. We did a ton of team building work and interactive activities like this. This was awesome though. If you just kind of look into it, and so it's, if you go to the top, it just is a way to explore your own identity. So we may think we don't have culture if we're not like noticeably, cultural, and diverse in that way, but you do, and it's just a way to kind of have students explore their own branches of identity. So you put yourself in the center, and then what else is there about you that you want to identify with? So, you may see female, yogi, Latinx, American, British, everything. So and then you'll kind of share why these things are important to you, why they're positive, and why you want to identify with them. And then also why they could be obstacles and how they've been seen as stereotypes in the past. So it kind of helps to identify the importance of that, as well as say like, yeah, so the bottom mentions you can be identified as Christian, but maybe you're not a right radical Republican. So yeah, it just kind of really breaks down barriers again, what we're looking to do here, and really explore the self. It's important.
I think it's super cool that these are interactive. Lavinya, you talked mainly about resources in the classroom. I think similar to mine, like in terms of lesson plans. Do you guys also do interactive or breaking down barrier exercises when you go into schools?
Yeah, so I think initially like the premise of what we're doing is not just about Black history, it's based on a very anti-racist pedagogy. So we do make sure that students are very comfortable with acknowledging, and also the teachers as well, the context of race in the UK, and how that is basically connected to the classroom. So we have discussions, particularly within the middle, because I think it's really hard sometimes if we're coming in, they don't know us, to just present a topic on race, and they're like, who are you? But after a while, we'll have conversations, they start to warm up, and we'll basically break down with them and get them to engage on their experiences, their thoughts, so that there's like some kind of introduction into the topic more broadly, rather than just the content specific things, because they might understand the content, but then they might have questions after, like, why was it relevant? So I think it's really important that we establish its relevancy before, through having those kind of challenging, if you like, conversations, which can actually be quite productive if engaged well, and very creatively as well, like doing mind maps on the board and making them lead that process as well. So it is very much, in short, a key part of our work in schools.
Awesome. I do want to also look at the privilege walk. So it's like you said, Lavinya, it's important to have that trust built already there, because some of these things can be, a bit emotional if we haven't really examined our own identities, and there's so many facets involved. So the privilege walk there's also variations of it. There's like cross the line.
I just want to make sure that people realize all the work that you put into. So these activities that you can do, he's just highlighting one of them, but you'll see how long it takes me to scroll to get to that one activity. There's so much here for.
I love these. They're all about, role playing and scenarios. Like, I feel like that, I love that. We did a ton of that. All we did was just hang out and just like have these discussions and stuff. But yeah, you're right. You can't just like, here's your lesson plan. You really want to have the students think about, why do you think we're doing this? Why is this important? But also to have established the trust before, because this stuff could be sensitive, and you do want to regroup after it's done as well, to like check in, reflect, and well as to have a discussion about it. So the privilege walk, this one was super emotional for me when I first did it, just because I didn't realize I had some privilege as well. But this is not meant to, again, like shame people about their privilege or judge it. So that's really important for educators to highlight, that it shows that we all have varying degrees of privilege, and this is just kind of an assessment of where we'll see like where are the obstacles to the privilege and where are the benefits to it. So it helps you kind of really self-assess here, and it's a bit sensitive because it can range from things to step forward if you have blue eyes, to step backwards if you only were raised with 5 books in your household, maybe. So it could get emotional if you see your best friend and they're all the way there and you're wondering why you're here in the back of the line. And so it'll bring up some intense questions, but it's important to start the self-evaluation process before we can kind of jump into things, as you said.
We kind of do this is great. We also do an adaptation of this, because as you said, we shouldn't we should make sure that students are not trained into doing this as well, because it can be embarrassing for both sides, at the front and also the back. So sometimes we get them to actually write it down, so they actually mentally get it, instead of actually seeing it, so that they feel uncomfortable with having those conversations, which it helps as well. And they've responded really well to it too. So
definitely. We had to close our eyes just so we wouldn't, be influenced by who's my friend stepping forward. Oh, I don't want this person to, think this way of me. But again, that trust with this one, you need to have a lot of trust in the group already.
Definitely.
Definitely don't start out with this one if you're new to it.
And then I think that the other one you wanted to talk about was another link in here from interactive tools, just like you said before, really putting in that work as a teacher, as an educator, to look at ourselves, but also some interactive testing of biases that can happen online. There's some great resources, and this one in particular, the harder test you want.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. We use that one as well. Again, to really look at our own biases as educators. We have them, we're people, you know, so we still have to kind of check those things. And it's really cool. I've done it. It's there's so many tests you can take on here. There's one, the black and white one. So yeah, it just like as you do, it's like a mental test, but pretty much you're seeing these faces of black faces and white faces, as well as they have positive and negative words. Then they'll mix it up and it kind of tests your reaction time to see which one you're more kind of sensitive to, what's your preference. But it's interesting, and then you can like evaluate at the end, and they give you resources and things like that, so you can learn about it as well.
Yeah, I used to use this one, the MTV Look Different campaign. One, because like secondary kids, if they saw MTV on their handout, they thought like, oh, this is gonna be a cool class. But it pops up similar to you saying pictures of two people, and it's just like kind of snap judgments. And so we're talking a little bit more, and then it led into great conversations, like Lavinya, you were saying before, inquisitive about why people may think one thing about a certain person based on their looks, how that they can infect like the people in the classroom and themselves as well. And it just was super great. It's just a great tool to use. Okay. In terms of websites and different things, I think maybe we are good here. If our lovely Wizard of Oz behind the screens, you can take us back to the webinar page and take away my scary, there we are. I get a little nervous being the screen sharing person.
Tough job, tough job.
We just wanted to open it up for anyone to pop in for different questions. And Lavinya, this question just came through for you. Have you met students in those 10 schools that you mentioned that didn't understand why it was important to talk about diversity? And in that case, how did you motivate students to explore questions of diversity?
I can honestly say that all of the students we've worked with have understood the importance of it. Through how they've engaged, or kind of the questions that they've asked have been around how do we make sure that this change is more, I guess, embedded in society. So I think if the only thing is that the only thing that I've noticed is that some students are unsure as to the next steps that they personally can take, and so sometimes that can be translated as like apathy. But I think with the majority of students that have engaged with this, like they have literally come out and said that like they're going to try and do more like self-awareness around this, they're going to try and talk more about it. So it's very like, I've never personally had a student say that they don't understand it, or if they don't, then we always will follow up with just like a conversation, just to make sure that they are supported and they know where to access that support, whether it's community groups that they can like find on Google or whatever, or if it's like resources like videos on YouTube and whatever. So there's always like a follow-up for those students who just don't have any idea about what to do next.
I wonder too, do you recommend the schools to do any like pre-work with the students before you guys come in?
Yeah, so we do recommend that at least we encourage teachers to basically have at least 4 books, and those books are David Olusoga, Back in British, a poem. So we would recommend something around Maya Angelou, or a Black British poet, so that they are grounded in Black, the experiences of Black Britons as well. So someone like Kamal Braithwaite. We also encourage like a short fiction story to be read. So Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. So that just essentially students have the the backdrop as to why this is important. Yeah, and why it's necessary through literature, because I think that's really key, or at least a video. So yeah, I think, yeah, given that, it's really important that, yeah, we have teachers being prepared as well for these conversations, because once we're gone, the students are going to have conversations with them, and so I think they just need to be prepared from the start, and yeah, have that kind of list to recommend and things like that for students to continue their learning outside of the classroom. And yeah, we also kind of signpost teachers to, you know, engage in more kind of decolonizing things outside the class. So you know, diversifying display boards, for example, getting students to kind of collaborate to create a piece of work around Black British history. In that regard, with school trips to museums, we encourage them to think about why those items are in the museum in the first place. So again, not just going into things blindly, and actually just questioning and being really critical. So those are the kind of like takeaways that we encourage teachers. So yeah, pre and post, we do offer resources to teachers to be supported.
Fantastic. If you need any more poems, please let me know. As I said, I have.
Yeah,
Smith would be a great one. He's got a beautiful poem called What the Cicada Said to the Black Boy. That is just absolutely beautiful. Introduce as well.
I'll definitely please share it.
I love that, Lavinya. In the day where there's like an influx of media that students are exposed to, I feel like this positive media and being proactive as well as reactive to it all, it really combats it from all ends. So I think that's really going to be powerful.
100%.
Guy, you had a question for the audience. Oh, there's another one here as well. Is there anything about design, technology, or food subjects, like home economics? Have you guys ever done those?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Do you have any resources around design, technology, or food, home economics classes that teachers in those classes could use?
A really good question. So at the moment, we don't have those resources, but we are creating new content that will be able to cater to teachers that are doing economics and also DT as well. So yeah, in the late autumn, we will have a bank of resources that will be made available.
I love that question. Yeah, that's a toughie. Yeah, definitely, because you know, like food and everything comes into play when it comes to culture and diversity. So yeah, I'd love to see those resources, Lavinya.
And people will be able, in the same way as before, to access that from your website. It's always changing, is what I've gathered.
Yeah, so our website and also on our partners' websites as well. So we've partnered with TES, who are doing like a Black a Black Experiences Bank, and we'll be adding to that as well. So it will be on our website, and also TES's too.
Fantastic. And you had this lovely poll question that you wanted to talk to the audience about, that our wonderful webinar queen behind, Phoebe's just gonna flip to. Have you guys ever talked about race and diversity in your classroom?
Hey, is that a question for me? Sorry.
Oh, no, just for the people to answer. It's a
okay.
Panelists don't vote.
Okay, there we go. So let's see those votes. Yeah. So who's comfortable talking about? Oh, okay, yes, a few times. That's good. Okay. So a few instances it's come up where you've had to have those conversations. Amazing. I wonder how that went. Hopefully y'all can keep tuning in and typing in your responses and let us know how you and do you think these resources will be helpful?
Another question for you, Lavinya. When you go to school to share your resources, do you stay for the whole day or specific lesson?
So it just depends really on what the school wants. So we've worked with schools for like a whole day. We've sometimes worked with them for a period of like 3 weeks, sometimes over 3 days. So it just depends on like, you know, where the availability is, you know, yeah, just how the school really wants to work. So it just depends really.
And then the follow-up to that is, if they wanted to organize some your visit, how would be the best way to do that?
So the Black Curriculum website is www.theblackcurriculum.book, and it will take you to the link to book a session. But yeah, if you want to find out more, our team are always on hand to like speak to you about our different programs and things like that. So it would be worth also emailing us if you want to ask more questions as to what you'd be getting. And yeah.
It seems like those are all the questions that have come through. So Lavinya, again, thanks from myself and from ANZUK, and I'm sure Dianne would also like to say thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the work that you have done. It's super important, and it's great to see. Dianne, I think, yeah, right?
Yeah, no, Lavinya, again, it's amazing that you could be here with us to share all of your amazing experience and the work that you've done. I can't thank you enough for doing what you do, really. So
no, thank you.
We're really honored.
It actually looks like they don't want to let us go yet. We have 2 more questions. Sorry, spoke too soon. One of the questions was, could we recommend any picture books or media content from younger children? Day, I believe you had a whole list for people, correct?
Yeah. Oh, love that. That's all we did in America. Yeah. So I focus on preschool, and so we have a ton of books on there. And you don't have to go into it, but it's on the drive. Yeah. So there are some I found in the UK, and the rest are the US, but you can order Amazon. You can find them anywhere. Maybe Something Beautiful is one of my favorite ones. It shows the story of this little Hispanic girl in the community, and she creates so much love and community through the creation of art, because it's a dull neighborhood before that. So it's so symbolic, and all of these books have been thoroughly researched and are by diverse illustrators and authors as well. So you have a lot of stories from different cultures, and it's so important to showcase that in the classroom, especially these early years are so susceptible, and they can recognize race. Children, even before 3 can start to tell the difference, and so talking about it, it's never too soon. But yeah, the books will definitely help with that, as well as strengthen their outlook on life, because they'll see themselves represented in these characters. So a ton of social emotional development you could do there, as well as with the language you're using, again, in vocab and images and reflecting back to them. So yeah.
And for you,
question.
Will the Block curriculum be developing any resources for younger kids, like early years or key stage 1?
Yeah, no, definitely. That is, something we're working on this year to be launched 2021, early 2021. So yeah, as Dianne just said, like, it is really important that nursery and also key stage 1 have visual images and different content they can relate to at that early age, when their ideas of, their personhood is developing. So yeah, that is definitely coming out next year.
Fantastic. Okay, I don't want to say it again, because check out the handout, guys, for all those resources that we just talked about, the ones in DUDS in particular. The Block curriculum is the first link on there, and the second link is that Google Drive. You can download it from this webinar by just clicking on where it says handout on your screen. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, sorry about our technical issues, but thanks for hanging in there. Again, if you have any questions, just let us know once we're done, and we will be happy to answer those, and check out all the resources on the handout. Thank you so much again, Lavinya. Thank you, Ange. Thank you, viewers. And
the blog that follows, that'll be on the website, that'll have the recording and also a little bit more with the handouts as well. But other than that, guys, we appreciate everyone for tuning in, and Lavinya, thanks again.
all right, take care, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.